Hey guys, welcome back to the Midnight Collective podcast. Once again, this is Eddie, and today we're going to talk about something I know a lot of us wrestle with but don't always talk about. But first, let me ask you this. Do you ever feel like you're the only one who doesn't have it all together? Like everyone around you is leveling up, getting married, buying homes, launching businesses, scoring their dream jobs, while you're just sitting there staring at your life like, what am I even doing? That's me. I've been there. I still find myself there sometimes. And if you're nodding along right now, then guess what? You're not alone in these thoughts either. We live in this world where we're constantly fed these highlight reels, social media success stories, those perfectly curated posts where everything seems just right. And it's so easy to look at all that and think, man, I am just missing something. Like there's this invisible deadline we've somehow failed to meet, and everyone else got the memo but us. But let me hit you with the truth that not enough people are saying out loud. You do not have to have it all figured out, and that's a good thing. So let's start with the first portion of this. You are not behind, you are exactly where you need to be. And I feel like there's this unspoken pressure on us men that there's this expectation that by a certain age, we need to have it all figured out. You know what I'm talking about. The career, the house, the relationship, the savings account, the plan. Like we're supposed to have hit these milestones on some invisible scoreboard and we don't. And that's why we think we're failing. But here's the truth. You are not behind. You're exactly where you need to be. I mean, who sets these rules anyways? Think about it. Where did these expectations come from? Who decided that by age 25, you needed to be climbing the corporate ladder? By 30, you should have a wife and kids. And by 35, you need to own a home with a white picket fence. The reality is, those expectations were set by a different generation in a completely different world. They were written in a time when stability meant success and following that same path as everyone else was the goal. But times have changed. The world is way different, and so are we. But we're still out here dragging these outdated benchmarks around like chains, letting them weigh us down, telling ourselves we're not good enough, not fast enough, not man enough. But life is not a checklist. It's a journey. Life isn't a straight line from point A to point B. It's not some checklist where you just tick off boxes and suddenly you've made it. It's more like a winding trail through the woods. You might not always see what's ahead, and sometimes you'll end up on a path you didn't expect or didn't even want. And that's okay. Some of the strongest, most resilient men I've ever known didn't take the fast track to success. They took the long way, the hard way. They stumbled, they fell, they got back up. They didn't rush to meet someone else's timeline. They carved their own path. The long road does actually build strong men. And when I say you're not behind, I'm not just trying to make you feel better. I'm telling you a fact. Some of the greatest men in history didn't have it all together early on. They weren't afraid to fail, to start over, to admit when they didn't know the way. And that's not weakness, that's strength. When you take the long way around, you gain something invaluable. Experience, grit, wisdom. You learn what you're made of. You find out how much you can handle. You build real strength, the kind that can't be faked or rushed. So if you're sitting there feeling like you're not where you need to be, remember this. You are not lost, you are learning. You are not behind, you are building. And builders build. This is your path and at your pace. Your journey is your own. There's no deadline on becoming the man you want to be. So stop comparing yourself and your path to someone else's. Stop letting old expectations hold you back. And most importantly, stop beating yourself up for not being there yet, wherever there even is. The truth is, strong men aren't born, they're made. They're forged through challenges, through setbacks, through those moments where nothing seems to make sense. And every step you take, whether it's forward or backward, is part of building that strength. So slow down, take a breath, let go of the pressure, trust your process, and know that every day you show up, every time you push through, you're getting better and you're getting stronger. you are exactly where you need to be. And you know what? There is strength in taking your time. Let's talk about the power of taking your time, about building a life that's solid, not just shiny on the surface. That pressure to have it all figured out by a certain age that I was talking about, that doesn't show real strength or real success. Your path doesn't follow a timeline, it follows perseverance. Be a man who built their legacy in their own time. We often hear about guys who didn't just break the mold, they built their own. They weren't the early bloomers, they weren't checking all the traditional boxes, but they were building slowly and steadily until they hit their stride. Let's take, for example, Colonel Sanders. That dude didn't even start KFC until he was in his 60s. Most people at that age are hanging up their hats, ready to coast through retirement, but not him. He kept grinding, kept pushing, and turned his recipe for chicken into a global brand. That's a testament to grit, to not letting go, not letting age or expectations dictate when your story ends. How about Steve Jobs? He was kicked out of his own company. Can you imagine? Most of us would have folded right there. But he came back with a vengeance, proving that a setback is just a setup for a comeback. He didn't rush to make it right. He took his time to rebuild, to sharpen his vision, and to create something lasting. There is such a thing as masculine resilience. I call it the art of patience and persistence. When we think about what it means to be a strong man, patience isn't always the first word that comes to mind, but it should be. There's real power in holding steady when everything around you is pushing you to rush. It's easy to chase quick wins, but the men who built legacies, who created something meaningful, are the ones who understand that great things take time. It's like building muscle. You don't hit the gym once a week and walk out ripped. You show up day after day, you push through the soreness, the fatigue, the doubt, and then one day you look in the mirror and you realize that the hard work paid off. Life works the same exact way. Every step forward, no matter how small, is a rep in building the man you want to become. That means it's your timeline and your rules. If you feel like you're not where you're supposed to be, that's okay. You're not late, you're right on time. The path to being a better man isn't just a straight line. It's not about keeping up with anyone else. It's about setting up your own pace and understanding that every challenge you face is another brick in your foundation. So, if it feels like you're moving slower than the guy next to you, don't sweat it. You might be taking longer, but you're also building stronger. And when your moment comes, when all those pieces finally come together, you'll realize that it's worth every minute. Real men aren't in a rush. They're in it for the long haul. The goal here isn't to hit the finish line. It's to build a life that matters. A life where you can look back and know you didn't cut corners. You never settled and didn't rush the process. Because strong men aren't just made, they're forged day by day in what I like to call the fires of patience and perseverance. And you can add some purpose in there because we all need to have intention in everything that we do. And if you're struggling with that right now, if you're feeling stuck or behind, just know this. This is your path. You are building it. You are becoming who you want to be. Now let's talk about turning uncertainty into opportunity. How you can build a stronger men. Uncertainty, we've all been there. That feeling when the ground beneath you isn't as solid as you'd like. It's like standing on the edge of a cliff, staring into a thick fog, not knowing what your next step will lead to. It's unsettling, and yeah, it can be downright terrifying. But here's the thing, strong men aren't the ones who avoid uncertainty. Strong men are the ones who walk straight into it. We take risks. The ones that scare us, the ones that make us think if it doesn't work out, our world is over. We challenge uncertainty not because it's easy, but because it is hard. And nothing worth doing in life is going to be easy or without risk. Why? Because growth lives in the unknown. When you think about the times in your life when you really leveled up, was it when everything was going smooth? Or was it when things were tough, messy, and confusing? I'd bet my last dollar it was during the seasons when you had no choice but to step up. When life threw you into the deep end and you had to learn how to swim. Those moments where every step forward felt like a gamble, where doubt was your shadow, but you kept moving. I know in my life, that's where I've had all of my growth. That's where I feel like I've become the person I am today. And you know what? That's where strength is built. Not in comfort, but in challenge. Not in knowing, but in learning. Uncertainty isn't a setback, it's a testing ground. And as men, we often feel this pressure to always have a plan, to always know the next move. Society tells us to be the rock, to keep it together, to never show weakness. But the truth is, real strength isn't about having all the answers. It's about having the courage to face the questions. Every successful man you admire or have admired, whether it's in business, sports, relationship, or life, has faced uncertainty head on. They didn't let the unknown paralyze them. Instead, they found it as an opportunity to prove to themselves what they're made of. So what's your next move? Well, your next power move is leaning into the unknown. The next time you find yourself in a place of uncertainty, don't retreat. Don't look for an easy way out. Instead, lean into it. Embrace the discomfort. Ask yourself, what can I learn here? What kind of man will I become by pushing through this? Because here's the truth. Your story isn't written in the safe zones. It's written in the moments where you're tested, when you're unsure, and when you decide to press forward anyway. This is where your real story begins, where your strength is forged, where your transition from just being a man to being a leader, a protector, a provider, whatever it is you're trying to be. The bottom line is, uncertainty is a call to action. When uncertainty knocks, answer. Step into it with your head held high. You may not know what's on the other side, but you do know this. You're building the kind of man who can handle whatever comes next. And that is the mark of a strong man. And now we embrace the becoming. And let's get real here. The world has a lot of expectations for us as men. We're supposed to be strong. We're supposed to have all the answers and be the rock for everyone around us. But none of us have it figured out. And if a man says he does, he's either lying or he stopped pushing himself. Because growth only happens when you're in that unknown. Life is a constant state of becoming. Every mistake you've made, every wrong turn, every moment where you felt lost, it wasn't for nothing. Those weren't failures. They were lessons. They were shaping you into the man you're meant to be. You might feel like you're not where you're supposed to be, like you're behind on some invisible timeline. But listen, you're not behind. You're not stuck. You're in progress. And being in progress is powerful because it means you're still moving, you're still fighting, you're still becoming. Your life is a story still being written. And every chapter, even the messy and unpolished ones, although some of us have many of those, hold meaning. Those rough patches, they add grit to your story. They show your strength. They show your perseverance, your ability to take a hit and get back up. And I don't know about many of you, but I've personally had way too many of those. And when you look at yourself, don't just see where you are. See where you're going. See the man you're building. A man who isn't afraid of growth. A man who understands that the hard days are what forge strength. A man who is not only strong for himself, but for the people who depend on him. So embrace it. Embrace the process. Embrace the becoming. Because this journey isn't just about getting somewhere. It's about becoming someone. A stronger man. A better man. The man you were always meant to be. So, let's keep the conversation going. If this hit home for you, I want to hear from you. What's one thing you've stopped beating yourself up over? What's a pressure you finally let go of? Drop a comment, shoot me a message, even write it down for yourself. Let's get real, let's get honest, and let's start talking about the things we usually keep bottled up. This isn't just another podcast. This is a collective, a space for us men to break down walls, share our stories, and build each other up. No ego, no judgment, just real talk from someone who gets it. And if you know a buddy who's struggling, someone who feels stuck or like he's fallen behind, share this episode with them. Sometimes all it takes is knowing you're not alone to change your whole perspective. Look, we're all trying to become better men, better fathers, better partners, and better brothers. It's not always about having it all together. It's about showing up, doing the work, and not giving up on ourselves. And if this is the kind of conversation that you need more of, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because this journey, you don't have to go at it alone. I'm right here with you, walking the same path, fighting the same battles. So I'll catch you in the next episode. Until then, remember, you are exactly where you need to be.